let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to manage your investments over the life of the portfolio? Not just right now, but over time. And when you're listening to this, I want you to identify, where are you in this? Which one are you? Because which one you are will define how you choose to invest. I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. So tonight, I want to talk to you about managing your investment over time. But really, I think what's most important about this is understanding that you as an investor, you have a timeline inside of you as an investor. So let me talk a little bit about this funny topic, because I think people have a tendency to get into arguments with each other or arguments with different people. Okay, let me give you an example of what I'm trying to get to. What I'm trying to get to is, there was this time when I was on a phone call with this young man, and he was saying, hey, well, my dad's an investor, but my dad, he's just so much more conservative than I am. He doesn't understand me as an investor. He doesn't understand my deep desire to also be an investor, but he doesn't approve of my investments because he considers them all too risky. And I went, oh, I know what's going on. It's not that this young man is so different from his dad, or that what he's doing that he wants to do is so different from what his dad did at the time when he was a young investor. So let's talk a little bit about, what does it mean to manage your investments over the life of the portfolio? Not just right now, but over time. And when you're listening to this, I want you to identify, where are you in this? Which one are you? Because which one you are will define how you choose to invest. It will define your risk tolerance, or at least affect your risk tolerance, and what the shape of your portfolio will most likely look like, and what might actually be best for serving you, the investor. Okay, so 3 things I'm going to talk about, 3 different ways that life changes over time. And I want you to identify yourself in any one of these 3 that you can. Life changes in general. So when I first started investing, I was 17 years old. I was definitely very young, and I was very single, to say the least. I was entering college, and I was super anxious about whether I was even going to succeed in college or not, because I've never been the best student when I was in traditional school. I'm pretty good when it comes to researching in real estate, but in traditional schools, and I wasn't I wasn't the best. Let's just put it that way. So here I am, 17-year-old, entering college, super nervous that I won't make it through. I'm single, and I'm very single, and I'm a brand new real estate investor. That is a different person and a different mentality than 50 years old. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I am the primary breadwinner in my family. I have a very different relationship to what my portfolio needs to be when I am not only paying for myself, but I'm paying for my daughter. I'm paying for our house, part of our house. I'm paying for my daughter's schooling. I'm paying for all the extras. I'm paying for the vacations that we do. I have a very different need for my investment portfolio than I had when I was 17 and I was a college student. When I was 17, I had 1 property. It's kind of cool to get the extra rent. Really, I was focused on college, and that was what I needed for my portfolio. I needed it to grow. I needed it to grow over time, so that when I was 50 years old, I had multiple investments, and I was able to manage a portfolio and be a full-time investor. Can you see how different the needs are from one versus the other? Managing over time who it is or what it is you need to be in relationship to your investments. So think about it. I had a child. That changed my risk tolerance dramatically. When I had a child, it changed. Was I really willing, like I was when I was in my mid-20s and I was flipping, and it was okay if it didn't make a lot of money? I enjoyed the flipping process. And gee, if I took a higher risk, I'd get a higher return. Is that okay with me now that I have a daughter who's 10, who's reliant on me? No, It's not okay anymore. I'm more conservative and more thoughtful about how I need my portfolio to perform. I hold myself to a higher level of accountability. Yeah, maybe it's my age, but maybe it's the fact that my portfolio has a requirement that it perform. Otherwise, I can't take care of paying my daughter's schooling, or I can't take care of buying the groceries for the house. I have a requirement for my portfolio to perform and to not lose it. So my risk tolerance has distinctly shifted. So if you find yourself moving through time and you find yourself changing what the needs are for your portfolio over time, that is natural and appropriate. Your portfolio should mature as you mature. That's one. Lifeline changes. Okay, this has to do with maturing as well, but I want you to notice the first one was major life events. This one is just lifeline changes. And lifeline changes aren't always just time related. Sometimes they're just related to when you became an investor, but lifeline changes. Here's what I call it. So we all know the new investor. They're excited. They want to take on investing. They're nervous. They're trying to figure out their place, but they're pretty hungry. They're hungry for investing. They're hungry for what investing is going to give them. And they're usually more tolerant of risk. I call them young, dumb, and full of fun. My Marines, I see them all the time. My young Marines at my group, they're young, they're excited, they're trying to find the edge in the market, they're trying to figure out who they're going to be in the market, they're trying to figure out what's the right perspective that they can gain in the market, where should they start, what's the right asset classes they should start with. There's a lot of questions, but a lot of passion and a lot of energy. And they usually have a higher risk. If you're an older investor, do not judge them. You started that way yourself. You started as the young Marine. You started as the one who had one house, 3 houses, worked as a wholesaler, worked as a real estate agent, worked extra hours every day. Just because you decided over time that that was not the way you wanted to work doesn't mean that's not right for them. Because maybe you're an older investor, maybe you're more ready to relax, looking for more stability in your portfolio and less risk inside of your portfolio. That's a perfectly valid way to be an investor as well. There's not one way to approach investing. That's probably the primary message of this whole segment today, is there's not one way to approach investing. It's not doing investing, it's approaching the investment, approaching your investing portfolio. So maybe you're older, maybe you're more ready to relax. You're looking for more stability and less risk. Okay, so what does that mean? In real life, what that means is if you're a Marine, you're young and you're ready to take it on, maybe you want to be a flipper. Maybe you want to be a wholesaler. Maybe you want to be a door knocker. Maybe you want to buy high risk properties that have multiple difficulties associated with it. I know this one guy who called me and said, hey, I have a 4-plex and 3 of the 4 units aren't paying and we're still in escrow. Should I demand that they empty the units before I buy the house? It wasn't, gee, I'm not going to buy it because clearly it's not performing. It was, I'm going to work really hard on this investment. An older investor would be like, I don't want to buy a B- property in a B neighborhood to turn it around to make it someday a great property. I want to buy an A-rated property because I don't want to work that hard. I'm looking for my A-rated property to be more stable, to offer less risk, and to have tenants that require that require less repairs. Maybe they have a higher level of demands. Maybe they want a nicer curtain, nicer toilets, nicer drapes, nicer colors, whatever, nicer carpet, but they're more stable tenants in a more stable property with a lower return. There's usually a lower cash on cash return in the A-rated properties. So is that wrong? From the young Marine, why would he invest in that? Oh my gosh, his returns, he's going to make less returns in his A-rated property than I'm going to make in my B- property, and I can put a little extra effort in and I'm going to get a higher return. So who's right? They're both right. They're right for the stage of investing that they're in. So, which one are you? Which one you are allows you to define what you want to be rolling your portfolio into. Are you wanting to roll it into more A-rated properties? Are you wanting to roll your portfolio into more triple net leases? Are you wanting to roll your portfolio into more passive syndication deals? If that's the maturity that you've passed through, that's not necessarily a wrong thing. And if a young guy comes along, tries to give you a hard time, or a young gal, don't worry about it. But if you see them, don't give them a hard time either. Okay, investor timelines, time and accumulated capital. So one of the things I've noticed across this whole concept I keep talking about is the younger investor usually is seeking more leverage because they're bringing less to play. They have less capital they're starting with, or they're starting with less capital than they want to have in the end. So they're looking for more leverage. They're putting more leverage on their properties. They're putting more effort into the property. They're accepting a higher level of risk because they're trying to grow it. The middle investor, more of halfway down the road, they've gotten a little farther. He or she is happier with the investment. They're going to have more mixed leverage inside of their portfolio. They're going to have maybe some at-risk or higher risk investments inside of their portfolio, maybe something that requires more of their active time. And they're going to have sort of like their cash cows, sort of the background of their portfolio, the backbone where they get cash flow and they're developing that cash flow inside of their portfolio. That's a mid-range investor. They're converting from high time, high leverage, higher risk to lower time, lower leverage, lower risk. They're in the middle of that, and their portfolio is generally a hybrid of both of those. So if you're finding yourself drawn to creating a hybrid portfolio, maybe it's the stage of investing that you're in. Maybe not the stage of your life, but the stage of your investing that you're in drives you to say, enough high return, high work, high stress. I want to start developing something underneath that will allow me then to be the older investor, the one that's looking for having their properties much more passive involvement, much lower risk. The principal is always protected. The interest comes off of that. So let me give you an example of this older investor. So I was at this meeting where they were talking about investing. Somebody was, giving a speech about it. And there was this older man, and he said, "Oh, you're a real estate investor. That's really great. That's fantastic. Let me tell you." He saddled up next to me. He's kind of taking on some of his attitude, right? He saddled up next to me and he said, "You know what? Let me tell you, I've got 4 8-plexes, all cash. I own them all free, no leverage at all. All I do is collect the rents. That is the investing that you want to do." Is it the investing I want to do as a young lady? But is he describing his perfect exit strategy, his perfect plan for being able to be a relaxed, self-confident investor in his retired years of his life, collecting rents and feeling successful? For him, that was his perfect exit strategy on his real estate. So if you're looking for your perfect exit strategy, think about who you want to be when you're 70, 75, 80 years old. What relationship do you want with your real estate? Because that is going to be your exit strategy. That's going to be what defines what makes you happy, peaceful, and content with your real estate portfolio as an older investor. So identify yourself in this, guys. Life changes will absolutely change your form of investing. Being single versus being married, having a baby, not having a baby, being a primary provider for the family or not being a primary provider will change what's inside of your portfolio and how you treat it. Lifeline changes will obviously happen as well. If you're a young person, new to real estate, hungry and eager to take on more risk, maybe almost regardless of the amount of capital you're starting with, but you're new to it and you're hungry and eager to take it on, versus older, more ready to relax, been doing this for a while, you're tired of being burned, your risk tolerance has established itself, and you're more stable in your investment decisions. Investor timeline. You've got time, you're a young investor, you need more leverage because you're newer to investing and you're maybe not starting with as much capital, or are you an older investor and you've hit your target. You're ready to pull back. You're ready for exit strategies. You're ready to choose that you can now have the relaxed financial freedom that you've been hoping for, that you've been creating over the last several years of your investment career. So do not give yourself a hard time about where you are in these timelines. Identify where you are in these timelines and cultivate your portfolio appropriately, acknowledging that where you are in each one of these timelines will change what's appropriate and change the face of your investing. I am Christina Suter. Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Breakthrough Show. Tune in next week for another educational segment.